I've been thinking about Sean a lot lately, which is honestly annoying because I shouldn't have to. We were together for almost 2 years and I thought we had something real, something that could weather a little drama. But apparently I was wrong about him. Apparently he was just another insecure guy who couldn't handle his girlfriend having male friends. It started out so perfectly with Sean. Those first few months were like something out of a romantic movie. He'd bring me coffee in the morning, leave little notes in my textbooks, always knew exactly what to say when I'd had a rough day at work. He was attentive without being clingy, funny without trying too hard, and he actually listened when I talked. My friends were jealous, and honestly, I felt pretty smug about landing someone like him. But after 2 years, things started feeling routine. Sean still did all the sweet gestures, but they felt automatic somehow. He'd trace those little circles on my back during Netflix nights, and instead of melting into him like I used to, I'd find myself getting irritated by his clammy fingers. He'd ask me what I was thinking about every few minutes, and I'd have to resist the urge to snap at him. The honeymoon phase was definitely over, and I was starting to wonder if this was all there was. That's probably why I was so receptive when Leon came into the picture. I met him at Anna's birthday party about a month before everything went wrong. He was funny in this sharp, quick way that reminded me of how Sean used to be before he got all comfortable and predictable. Leon actually challenged me in conversations instead of just nodding along supportively like Sean always did. When I complained about my boss, Leon would offer genuine solutions instead of just saying, "That sucks, babe," and changing the subject. Leon and I started texting pretty regularly after that party. Nothing inappropriate, just funny observations about our days, shared memes, complaints about work. He had this ongoing joke about his coworkers' terrible fashion choices that always made me laugh. It felt refreshing to connect with someone new, someone who saw me as Christina the person instead of Christina the girlfriend who needed constant reassurance and attention. Sean didn't seem bothered by my friendship with Lion. At first, I'd mentioned hanging out with him in group settings, and Sean would just nod and ask if I had fun. I appreciated that he wasn't the jealous type, or at least I thought he wasn't. Looking back, maybe he was just being trusting, which apparently was a mistake on his part. The whole thing fell apart over something so stupid. Leon and I were hanging out at his apartment, just watching some documentary and complaining about our respective relationship issues. I was venting about how Sean had been extra clingy lately, always wanting to hold hands and do clicky things when sometimes I just wanted to exist without performing the perfect girlfriend role. Leon was telling me about some drama with his ex who kept texting him. We got into this weird argument about whether it was worse to be with someone too clingy or someone too distant. Leon was insisting that clingy was worse, that it showed a lack of respect for personal space. I was arguing that distant was worse because at least clingy meant they cared. We were both getting pretty heated about it, talking over each other. And then suddenly Leon just leaned over and kissed me. I was completely shocked. For a few seconds, I just froze, trying to process what was happening. Then I pushed him away and demanded to know what he thought he was doing. He immediately started apologizing, saying he'd misread the situation, that he thought there was something between us. I told him he was crazy, that I had a boyfriend, that we were friends, and nothing more. The whole thing was so awkward and confusing. Leon kept apologizing and saying he'd gotten carried away by the intensity of our argument. I was furious with him for putting me in that position, for potentially ruining our friendship over some stupid misunderstanding, but I was also kind of flattered, if I'm being honest. It had been a while since someone had wanted me enough to make a move like that. I drove home feeling completely rattled. Part of me wanted to pretend it never happened, to just go back to normal with both Sean and Leon and hope the weirdness would fade. But I knew I couldn't hide something like this from Sean. We'd always been honest with each other. And besides, what if Leon said something to someone and it got back to him? It would look so much worse if Sean found out from someone else. So that night, when Sean was doing his usual back gracing thing while we watched some cooking show, I took a deep breath and told him what happened. I made sure to emphasize that I'd pushed Leon away immediately, that I'd made it clear nothing like that could ever happen again. I explained how shocked and upset I'd been, how I'd never given Leon any reason to think I was interested in him that way. Sean went completely still when I told him. His hand stopped moving on my back, and I could feel his whole body tense up beside me. When I finished explaining, he was quiet for a long time. Then he asked me to repeat exactly what happened, step by step. So I did, making sure to emphasize again how I'd rejected Leon and told him off. So he just kissed you out of nowhere? Sean asked, and his voice sounded different, colder, completely out of nowhere. I confirmed. I think he misinterpreted our friendship as something more, but I set him straight immediately. Sean sat up and turned to face me fully. And what did you say to him after you pushed him away? I repeated, Leon lent Tunk's apologies, and my response is how I told him he was crazy and that I had a boyfriend. Sean nodded slowly, but I could see something building behind his eyes. I don't think you should hang out with him anymore, Sean said finally. That's when I got defensive. Sean, nothing happened. I handled it. Something did happen. Christina, he kissed you, and I stopped it immediately. I shot back, I can't control what other people do, but I can control how I respond. And I responded by shutting it down. But you want to keep being friends with him? The question caught me off guard. He's a good friend, Sean. One mistake doesn't erase that. Sean stared at me like I'd grown a second head. He disrespected you in our relationship? How is that a good friend? People make mistakes, I said, getting more frustrated. He apologized. He knows it can't happen again. So you're planning to just go back to hanging out with him like nothing happened? I'm planning to maintain a friendship while setting appropriate boundaries, I said, which I thought sounded very mature and reasonable. That's when Sean really lost it. We got into this huge fight about trust and boundaries and what constituted appropriate behavior. He kept saying that Leon had shown his true intentions and that any guy who would kiss his friend's girlfriend wasn't someone worth being friends with. I kept trying to explain that Leon was genuinely sorry that people could learn from their mistakes, that I shouldn't have to lose a good friend over one moment of poor judgment. He's been your friend for a month, Christina. We've been together for 2 years. So I should just cut off every guy who shows interest in me? I asked. That's not fair, Sean. I'm not asking you to cut off every guy. I'm asking you to cut off the guy who kissed you while you have a military boyfriend. The fight went on for hours. Sean kept saying he felt disrespected and betrayed, not just by Leon, but by my insistence on maintaining the friendship. I kept trying to make him understand that I'd done nothing wrong, that I'd handled the situation appropriately, and that punishing Leon forever for one mistake was extreme. Finally, Sean gave me an ultimatum. Either you block him everywhere or we are done. Just like that. 2 years together, and he was ready to throw it all away because I wanted to give someone a second chance. You're being ridiculous. I told him maybe, he said, but that's where I stand. I'm not going to be in a relationship with someone who stays friends with a guy who kissed her. That's my boundary. I was so angry I could barely see straight. But I could also see that Sean was serious, and I wasn't ready to lose him over this. Fine, I said. Okay, I'll block him. Sean's whole demeanor changed immediately. He pulled me into a hug and started apologizing for having to make it an ultimatum, saying he knew it wasn't fair, but that he just couldn't handle the alternative. I hugged him back, but inside I was seething. This was exactly the kind of controlling behavior my friends had warned me about, making me choose between him and my friends, isolating me from other people who cared about me. But I had agreed, so I had to follow through. I went through my phone and blocked Leon on Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. Sean watched me do it when I nodding approvingly as each app showed Leon's profile as blocked. But when I got to Instagram, I hesitated. Leon posted the funniest stories on Instagram. We had ongoing jokes about his coworkers' outfits, and he always shared the best memes. Plus, it's not like we were messaging each other on there. It was just casual social media interaction. What Sean didn't know wouldn't hurt him. And I wasn't actually doing anything wrong by keeping one small connection. So I skipped Instagram. Sean was so relieved and grateful that I'd blocked Leon everywhere else, that he didn't think to double check every single platform. He kept thanking me and saying how much he appreciated me choosing our relationship. And I just nodded and let him think I'd cut off all contact. For a few days, everything seemed fine. Sean was back to his affectionate, trusting self. He stopped asking me about my plans or who I was texting. I still watched Leon's Instagram stories and occasionally liked his posts, but that was it. I wasn't messaging him or making plans to hang out. I was technically keeping my word about not maintaining the friendship. Social media didn't count as real contact. But then Sean saw Leon's name pop up when I was scrolling through Instagram stories. He asked me about it casually at first, like maybe he'd misunderstood what he'd seen. When I tried to play it off, he asked to see my phone. Don't you trust me? I asked, which should have been the end of it. We'd been together 2 years. I had proven my loyalty by blocking Leon everywhere else. One stupid app shouldn't be enough to destroy all the trust we'd built, but Sean's face went hard again. How am I supposed to trust someone who lies in my face about something so simple? I didn't lie, I protested. I blocked him everywhere that matters. Instagram is just social media. You told me you'd block him everywhere. You looked me in the eye and agreed to cut contact. Then you deliberately kept him unblocked on the one platform you thought I wouldn't check. You're being controlling. I shot back. I guess I'll never have any guy friends again, right? Is that what you want? Isolate me from everyone? Sean stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, "We're done, Christina." Just like that. No discussion, no negotiation, no second chance. He was breaking up with me over Instagram. You can't be serious. I said, I'm completely serious. I gave you one. Simple boundary, and you couldn't respect it. You lied to my face about something that would have taken 30 seconds to actually do. If you can lie about something this small, how can I trust you about anything bigger? I tried to explain that it wasn't really lying, that I'd kept my word about the important stuff, but Sean was done listening. He started gathering up his things from my apartment, moving with this calm determination that was somehow worse than if he'd been yelling. Sean, please, I said, we can work through this. No, he said without looking at me, we can't. I spent the next few days in complete shock. I kept expecting him to call or text to say he'd overreacted and wanted to talk things through, but my phone stayed silent. When I finally swallowed my pride and reached out to him, he was polite but firm. I'm sorry, I told him. Trust me, it won't happen again. You're right, he said. It won't happen again because together anymore. I begged him to reconsider, to give us another chance. I promised I'd block Leon on Instagram, that I'd never speak to him again, whatever Sean wanted. If you're really sorry, Sean said, call your brother Robert right now and explain to him what happened. Put it on speakerphone so I can hear. I stared at him. If you're genuinely sorry and you understand why what you did was wrong, it should be easy to explain it to Robert. He's a good guy. He'll give you spare advice. The request was so bizarre and humiliating that I couldn't even process it at first. He wanted me to call my own brother and confess to lying and breaking Sean's trust. Robert would take Sean's side immediately. He always did that protective big brother thing whenever I had relationship drama. That's insane. I told Sean, why would I involve my family in our private issues? Because if you can't explain your actions to someone who loves you and wants what's best for you, then maybe you know they were wrong. I stood there holding my phone, realizing that Sean was serious. He actually expected me to humiliate myself by calling Robert and admitting that I'd lied about blocking someone on social media. The whole thing was a trap. He knew I wouldn't do it, which gave him an excuse to feel righteous about ending things. This is ridiculous, I said, and I walked away. That was a month ago, and I haven't spoken to Sean since. I heard from Anna that he's doing great, focusing on school and spending more time with Marlon and his other friends. Apparently, he told people that he doesn't hate me and won't disrespect me, but that the relationship is completely over. I keep replaying everything that happened, trying to understand how we went from 2 years of happiness to complete destruction over something so trivial. Leon and I were good friends, the kind of friends who actually understood each other's sense of humor and could have real conversations. One moment of poor judgment shouldn't have erased all of that, and it definitely shouldn't have been enough for Sean to throw away our entire relationship. The more I think about it, the more I realize that Sean was looking for an excuse to break up with me. He probably felt trapped in our relationship, but didn't want to be the bad guy who ended things for no reason. When the Leon situation happened, he saw his opportunity and took it. The Instagram thing was just his way of manufacturing drama so he could play the victim. If Sean had really loved me, he would have trusted me to handle the situation appropriately. He would have understood that maintaining a friendship with Leon didn't threaten our relationship, especially since I'd made it clear to Leon that nothing romantic could ever happen between us. Instead, Sean chose to be controlling and possessive, demanding that I cut off anyone who might potentially be interested in me. The brother test was the most manipulative part of all. Sean knew exactly what he was doing when he made that request. He knew I wouldn't want to involve Robert in our private drama, and he used my reluctance as proof that I wasn't really sorry. It was a setup from the beginning. I miss what Sean and I had in the beginning, but I don't miss the person he became toward the end. The jealousy, the ultimatums, the need to control who I could be friends with. That's not love. That's insecurity disguised as concern. I deserve someone who trusts me enough to let me handle my own friendships, someone who doesn't see every male friend as a potential threat to our relationship. Leon and I don't talk anymore either. After everything that happened with Sean, the friendship felt too complicated to maintain. But I still think about our conversations sometimes, how easy and natural they were compared to the careful navigation I had to do with Sean toward the end. Maybe that should have been my sign that something was wrong in my relationship when talking to a friend felt more relaxing than talking to my boyfriend. I'm focusing on myself now, spending time with Anna and Caitlin, throwing myself into work and school. I'm not ready to date anyone new yet, but when I am, I'll make sure to find someone who isn't threatened by my friendships, someone secure enough in himself and in our relationship that he doesn't need to isolate me from other people who care about me. Sean made his choice when he decided that his insecurity was more important than our 2 years together. I made mine when I refused to let him control who I could be friends with. Maybe we just weren't compatible after all. But I'm not going to pretend that I was the only one who made mistakes. Sean's need to control and test me was just as damaging as anything I did. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd just blocked Leon on Instagram from the beginning, if I'd followed through completely on what I'd promised Sean. But then I remind myself that if our relationship was so fragile that one social media connection could destroy it, maybe it wasn't as strong as I thought it was. A truly solid relationship should be able to weather small disagreements and imperfect decisions without completely falling apart. I learned a lot about myself through all of this. I learned that I need someone who trusts me to make my own choices, even when those choices aren't perfect. I learned that I value my independence and my right to maintain friendships without having to justify every interaction to a jealous partner. Most importantly, I learned that love isn't supposed to come with ultimatums and tests and demands to prove your loyalty through humiliation. Sean is probably telling people that I chose Leon over him, but that's not what happened. I chose my right to make my own decisions over his need to control me. I chose to maintain my dignity instead of submitting to his manipulative tests. If that makes me the villain in his story, then so be it. I know the truth about what really happened, and I know I don't deserve to be punished forever for one small mistake in judgment. The whole experience has made me more careful about who I trust with my heart. Next time, I'll make sure I'm with someone who sees me as an equal partner, not someone who needs to be managed and controlled, someone who understands that real love means trusting your partner to do the right thing, even when you're scared or insecure. I still think about Sean sometimes, especially when I see couples being affectionate in public or when something reminds me of our good times together. But I don't regret how things ended. I regret that it had to end at all. But I don't regret standing up for myself when he tried to isolate me from my friends. That's not the kind of relationship I want to be in. And I'm better off alone than with someone who sees my friendships as threats to be eliminated. Maybe someday Sean will realize that his jealousy and need for control cost him something good. Maybe he'll learn to trust his next girlfriend enough to let her have male friends without turning it into a relationship ending crisis. But that's not my problem anymore. I'm moving forward, focusing on building a life where I don't have to choose between the person I love and the friends who care about me. That's what I deserve, and I'm not going to settle for anything less.